Have you ever stopped to think about what actually stops a government from doing, well, whatever it wants? What's the fundamental rulebook that says how a country has to be run? Well, today we're diving deep into the very foundation of law and liberty, constitutional law. It's the powerful and absolutely essential set of rules designed to control the rulers themselves.
You know, when you boil it all down, every single society has to grapple with these three huge questions. Who gets to be in charge? What are the rules they have to play by? And, maybe most importantly, where does their power stop?
And finding the right answers to those questions, that is the great challenge for any nation. It's this constant balancing act, right? You need a government strong enough to get things done, but you also have to protect the freedoms of the very people it governs. The solution, it turns out, is found in a very special kind of law.
And that right there is constitutional law. The best way to think about it is like the master blueprint for a country. It sets up all the big institutions of the state, the parliament, the president, the courts, and then it clearly defines the relationship between them and you, the citizen. It really is the ultimate source of all legal authority.
Okay, so to really get a handle on Sri Lanka's constitutional story, we first have to look back at the model it came from and then dramatically broke away from. That's the United Kingdom. And the UK system is really fascinating and pretty unique because it doesn't have one single book you can point to and say, that's the Constitution.
Yeah, that's right. Unlike most countries, the UK's constitution isn't a single document. It's more like a patchwork quilt that's been woven together over hundreds of years. It's made up of major laws passed by Parliament, really important court decisions that create what we call common law, unwritten political traditions known as conventions, and even the writings of famous legal thinkers, like the great A.V. Dicey.
And the glue holding this whole patchwork together? It's one massive, super powerful idea, parliamentary sovereignty. What this means is that the UK Parliament is the ultimate final source of law. Whatever it passes as law is the law, period. No one, not even the highest court in the land, can turn around and say, nope, that's illegal. This is the key idea to remember as we go forward.
Now, alongside this, the UK system is built on the rule of law, which Dicey famously broke down for us. It sounds complicated, but it's actually simple and incredibly profound. First, nobody is above the law. Not the Prime Minister, not you, not me. Everyone's equal. Second, the government can't just do things on a whim. Its power isn't arbitrary. It has to be based on existing law. And third, all government officials have to play by the rules and act within their legal limits.
All right, now let's pivot to Sri Lanka. Because while Sri Lanka inherited a lot of British legal traditions, it made a decisive, radical break from that UK model. It created something totally different, a single, written, and most importantly, supreme constitution.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. The UK has an unwritten, flexible constitution. Sri Lanka has a formal, written one from 1978. In the UK, ultimate power comes from Parliament. In Sri Lanka, it comes from the people. And that leads us to the biggest difference of all. The UK has parliamentary sovereignty, but Sri Lanka has constitutional supremacy.
Now this is a revolutionary idea. The Constitution makes it crystal clear that sovereignty, the ultimate power to rule, doesn't belong to the politicians sitting in Parliament. No, it belongs to the citizens of the country. The government, in all its forms, is just exercising that power on behalf of the people.
So you might be asking, how does that actually work? Well, the people exercise their power through four main channels. They hand over their lawmaking power to Parliament, their executive power to the President, and their judicial power to the courts. But, and this is so important, they keep their direct power through the franchise, which is just the fundamental right to vote and choose who represents them. And this is where the rubber really hits the road. It's the most critical difference. In the UK system, remember, a law passed by Parliament is final. But in Sri Lanka, the Constitution is the highest law of the land. That means if Parliament passes a law that goes against the Constitution, the courts actually have the power to review it and potentially strike it down. The Constitution is the boss, not Parliament. But Sri Lanka's constitution didn't just come from rejecting the UK model. It also looked around the world and actively borrowed and adapted some of the best ideas from other great democracies, especially from India and the United States, to create its own unique legal fabric.
The influence from our neighbor India has been just huge. Like India, Sri Lanka has a detailed, written constitution that puts a really strong emphasis on fundamental rights. Sri Lankan courts have also been inspired by India's brand of judicial activism, where judges take a more proactive role in protecting people's rights, often through what's called public interest litigation.
This is amazing because it lets any citizen bring a major issue to the courts on behalf of the public. But maybe the most powerful idea we've adopted is the basic structure doctrine. This came from a famous Indian case, Kesavananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, and it basically says that some parts of the Constitution, like democracy itself, are so core, so fundamental, that they can't ever be amended or removed. It's like a judicial shield that protects the Constitution from being destroyed from the inside.
And from the United States? Well, Sri Lanka definitely embraced the powerful idea of judicial review. You know, the concept that courts get to interpret the Constitution and make sure all the laws follow it. But it very cautiously avoided the super strict American-style separation of powers. Here in Sri Lanka, there's still a pretty big overlap between the executive and the legislature. For example, government ministers are also members of parliament.
So, okay, after all this talk about sovereignty, supremacy, and different models, why should any of this actually matter to you in your day-to-day life? Well, it matters because constitutional law is the ultimate shield. It's what stands between the immense power of the state and your own personal liberty.
This stuff is not abstract. Constitutional law is the very thing that guarantees your freedom to speak your mind. It's what ensures you are treated equally, no matter who you are. It's what protects you from being arrested without a good reason, and it fiercely defends your fundamental right to life and to be treated with dignity. These aren't just nice ideas. They are real, enforceable rights that belong to you.
And this is a living, breathing field of law. It's always changing. The biggest legal conversations happening in Sri Lanka right now are about these key issues. How do we keep a strong executive in check with judicial oversight? How can we, as citizens, use public interest litigation to hold the government accountable and ensure good governance? And then there's this growing idea of constitutional morality. This basically says it's not enough for the government to act in a way that's technically legal. Their actions also have to be reasonable, fair, and done in good faith. It's all about honoring the spirit of the law, not just the letter.
At the end of the day, the most crucial point is this. Constitutional law isn't just for lawyers and judges. It's the operating system for a just society. It's the whole framework that's been designed to make sure that the incredible power of the state is used for the people, not against them. It's a constant, dynamic effort to find that perfect balance.
And look, if you take just one single thing away from this explainer, let it be this thought. Constitutional law is our best attempt, as human beings, to create a system that controls power, before that power gets out of control and ends up controlling us. It is, without a doubt, the ultimate safeguard for a free society.